Right now, former President Trump is in D.C. for the first time since his New York criminal verdict. He's meeting with Republican lawmakers, business leaders, and potential candidates for his VP pick. Now, the former president is also expected to speak at a press conference in a little over an hour, which we will bring to you when they begin. And before he went to the Capitol, Trump hung out with YouTube sensation turned professional wrestler Logan Paul in a move that's likely to appeal to young voters. Now, a voting bloc that Trump is aggressively targeting and that Biden is bleeding. Watch.
And where are we?
I'm scared, bro.
Impulsive! The two also posed for this Instagram picture with Logan Paul's WWE Championship belt. It got almost 900,000 likes in just under 24 hours. Meanwhile, Trump brought gifts for the internet superstar. Watch.
Is this your mugshot?
We're gangsters.
This is what we're reduced to.
Should we put them on now?
It sells. Well, Elvis had one, Frank Sinatra had one, but we've eclipsed them. A long time ago, we've eclipsed them.
That's what authenticity looks like, by the way. Logan Paul also extended an invitation to Joe Biden to join his podcast. Watch.
We'd like to extend the invite to Joe Biden if he'd like to come on this podcast.
Yeah, I think you should. You know what chance you have of getting him on? I'd say less than 1%. Okay? If you did that, it'd be I'd actually watch that one.
What I loved about that so much, Paul, is that, as I said, it's two of them being themselves. It's watching two normal humans interact. There's no faking anything, right? They're authentic. And that's probably in part why Logan Paul's celebrity has really skyrocketed. And that's being reflected in polls. So the latest New York Times Siena polling has President Biden with just a 2-point lead over Trump among those between 18 and 29. And a recent Quinnipiac survey has Trump ahead by a point among registered voters between 18 and 34. And you contrast that, CNN exit polling showed that Biden won the 18 to 29-year-old vote by 24 percentage points in 2020 and Hillary Clinton by 19 in 2016. There's a lot of ground that has been gained, and maybe it's because of things like this.
That's a 20-point swing, so, that's a big, big number. I mean, look, he's very smart. He senses the vulnerability, and he's going right at it. Part and parcel of that is his proposal to remove the tax on the gig economy through the service industry, saying, OK, we're not going to tax your tips anymore. And I think what would behoove Trump, and I think he's doing it, is to just, have a digital advisor, because kids these days live digitally. And one of the gripes I hear is about Venmo. Kids use Venmo to send money all over the place. If you use Venmo in a commercial transaction with your link to a credit card, it takes a 3% tax. That you feel that if you're a young person working in the gig economy. So that's just an idea that I've seen floated, but it's very clear that he's listening to advisors on those issues, and he understands that those kids vote these days. They're tuned in. They see this stuff on TikTok. That's why he's with Logan Paul here, who's got an enormous following on TikTok. Very wise, and he knows something else. He knows that Biden can't do it. If Biden goes on Logan Paul or any of these real digital platforms and exposes himself like that, even though they're not that far apart in age, Biden's scans are so much older than, and kids get him. They understand that Trump is funny. They see Biden, they see their cranky grandpa. Let's be frank.
It's true. Kaylee, I want to get your thoughts on what Paul just said. Everything you said is so true and it's so accurate. But I wonder talk to me about the practical application, the investment return on those kind of voters versus the ones that are being plied with birth control and a 6-pack of beer. And my question to you is that authenticity, that realism, the actual policy-based campaigning, is that enough to woo or to surmount the Democrat knee-jerk free swag approach?
It is. Listen, I'm Gen Z. We don't want to be pandered to by Democrats. We want actual policy solutions for the problems that we face just as much as older generations do. And this is a really big deal for Trump to meet with Logan Paul, because I know who Logan Paul is. I don't necessarily watch him, not really my style. But I guarantee you that everyone in my generation, regardless of whether they watch him, they know who he is. And he has a tremendous following. He has 23 million YouTube subscribers, 27 million Instagram followers, 18.5 million TikTok followers. And an analysis last year found that more than half of those are all between the ages of 18 through 24. So if you're trying to speak to Gen Z, this is a perfect person to do that with. And Paul is right that, candidates have to learn how to campaign differently for younger voters, because we don't consume politics the same way as older generations. We're not going to turn out to traditional campaign events. We are not going to answer a pollster's phone call. But we will see you on social media. We will listen to you if you're talking with one of our favorite influencers, like Logan Paul. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. He is changing his strategy to meet the moment.
Yeah, I think I'm still traumatized from yesterday when the Democrats rolled out their six-packs. So tell us, weigh in. Is this going to work? Fingers crossed. What do you think of this?
Absolutely. Well, look, the TikTok move is brilliant on Trump's part. Remember, when he signed up for TikTok, his fan base blew away Joe Biden's. That's the first thing that we have to remember. The other is that if you look at that generation, Gen Z, what 9 out of 10 Gen Zs that actually did answer a poll, to your point, said that housing affordability, that is their most important issue when they go to vote in November. Democrats are very worried about that young vote not showing up in November. If they can't engage them, that's not just Joe Biden, but, down ballot. The other issue, too, is if you look at the things, and actually Jake Paul, his brother, I don't know a lot about them either, but he goes, mortgages are too much for us to afford. Inflation is up. People are having trouble paying off going to school. All of these things are what that generation cares about.
Yeah, take us home.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is brilliant. Getting out on TikTok. Oftentimes, a party or a candidate loses a race, and then they do kind of an auto-critique, a look back at where we went wrong. And I remember during Obama's election and re-election, the Republican Party having to grapple with, what did he do that we didn't do? Micro-targeting on Facebook. Well, here we are. Trump's not letting the moment pass him by. This is brilliant, being out there at the UFC fight, being out there with Logan Paul. Biden, I'm sure, will not take up that invitation from Logan Paul. Trump is doing two things. He's showing up, and he's having fun. And that age-old test, who do you want to have a beer with? The guy who stands frozen during a White House concert for Juneteenth, that's what Biden did, or the guy going face-to-face, quite literally, with a WWE celebrity. I mean, the second guy, not only does he have policy answers, but he's having fun while he presents them.
Yeah, it's like the evolved Donald Trump, but also the one that we've always known and appreciated and loved. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.